In this lecture, we examine the U.S. income taxation of foreign companies that are residents of treaty countries. The objectives of this lecture are as follows. Understand the basic U.S. taxation of business income under tax treaties. Understand the taxation of non-business income under tax treaties. Understand what constitutes a permanent establishment. And understand the attribution of income to a permanent establishment. The inbound U.S. taxation of business income of foreign taxpayers under U.S. tax treaties is the mirror image of the rules for outbound foreign income taxation of U.S. taxpayers under U.S. tax treaties. These rules were discussed in Lecture 10-2. To recap, in order for a foreign company to be taxable in the United States under a treaty on its business profits, two tests must be met. First, the company must have a permanent establishment in the United States. And second, business profits must be attributed to that permanent establishment. With regard to non-business income, such as royalties that are not attributed to a permanent establishment, taxability is determined by the treaty. Royalties and dividends are often provided for in tax treaties. Where non-business income is not provided for in a tax treaty, then the taxpayer is usually subject to the tax laws of the country in which the income arises. That is, if the non-business income is not provided for in the treaty, then it is usually not protected by the treaty. In this course, we are concerned mostly with royalty income because technology companies are often the licensors or licensees of copyrights and patents. Royalties are ordinarily covered by tax treaties. The most common provisions are exemption of royalties from income tax in the treaty country in which the royalties arise, or a reduced rate of tax on royalties in the country in which the royalties arise. Let's talk briefly about permanent establishments in the United States. In general, the rules for determining if there's a permanent establishment in the United States are the same as those in Unit 10 for permanent establishments in foreign countries. In identifying U.S. permanent establishments of foreign companies, particular care must be taken in relation to the following. Identifying dependent agents that can result in a permanent establishment, including an agency, PE, website hosting services that may be dependent agents, web servers in the United States that may result in a permanent establishment. If a foreign company has a permanent establishment in the United States, then the company is taxable in the United States on business profits attributable to the permanent establishment if a treaty applies. Attribution of business profits to a permanent establishment applies to both inbound and outbound transactions. The rules for attributing profits to a permanent establishment were discussed in Unit 10, and these same rules apply here. The following comprehensive example, which mirrors the example in Lecture 10-2, covers the U.S. taxation of a foreign corporation with a U.S. web server. Foreign Co. is a Country X company engaged in providing online services for a fee. Country X has a tax treaty with the United States. In order to gain better access to the U.S. market, Foreign Co. leases a web server in the United States and co-locates it with a U.S. hosting company. By co-location, I mean that foreign co controls the web server, but the hosting company has the server on its premises and maintains the server for a fee. The server provides online services to customers in the United States. All of the software and data necessary to provide the service is uploaded to the server from Foreign Co's Country X offices. The server is programmed and operated by Foreign Co personnel in Country X. Foreign Co has no other assets or personnel in the United States. Because the server is controlled by Foreign Co, and because core business operations take place on the server, under rules discussed in Unit 10, we might consider the server to be a permanent establishment in the United States. For purposes of this example, let's assume that the server is a permanent establishment. If the server is a permanent establishment, we must perform a functional analysis of its operations to determine the amount of Foreign Co's profits that should be attributed to the server and taxed in the United States. In this case, the assets are clearly owned in Country X. This is because the income-producing assets, which include primarily the software and data on the server, were developed by Country X personnel. In addition, all of the significant business risks associated with the operation are assumed by the Country X company. Business risks in this case include primarily money invested in creating the software and data, administrative overhead, and marketing and advertising costs. Because all of the assets used on the web server belong to Foreign Co in Country X, and because all important risks are assumed in Country X, only minimal profit should be attributed to the web server under the treaty. This profit may be, for example, some minimal return on the value of the property located in the United States.